This whole design is her idea, all of it. She sent me that clip and said, look at this cool thing. And that's what we stole all the cool ideas. I think the goal, and we've been working on for the last 10 years, is to get rid of equipment, to get rid of trusses, to get rid of technology, to really go towards more shape, you know, and form, and just pieces and shapes to fill spaces, not rows of trusses and things and blinking lights and things that amaze people because it moves. Just for the simple fact that you can make it do something, you know what I mean? That's kind of the goal. Sometimes we had better and less success at that, but this time I think we hit it with just having a beautiful thing instead of just a bunch of moving, wiggling lights, you know, which is I'm trying to always avoid.
The way the system works is that, you know, it is just a two-dimensional rig. Everything goes up and down only, but we kind of fake a three-dimensional look by driving them. Instead, we can't keep them in a uniform plane and just angle or rake the plane, but then we can also break it up into multiple levels to create the illusion, basically, of 3D. So even though it is still just a two-dimensional system, it looks 3D because we have width and depth and height. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does once you see the show.
Let's be honest, I found the first one. It was a German company that invented, I think, the technology. I saw it just on the interweb. It was, my wife saw a little clip of it, maybe in a mall or something, that they had a little piece somewhere in the East, Abu Dhabi or something like that, right? And I contacted that German company and they never got back to me. I went to, of course, Tate Towers, who does our other shows, and they were working on a prototype, so they were excited to try their hand at it. They had 50 of them, I think, done for Mercedes or BMW for the Detroit Auto Show. So they had some working, but not very, very limited scope. You know, they kind of had to build the software for us. Anyone's going to tell you is packaging and pre-production and building beautiful, strong systems to transport, you know, or you would never even try. And no ill thoughts to the original German company from that video I saw, but it was the very first prototype, and it was cables and wires, and it looked like hundreds of people, you know, trying to make. This is roughly, this whole system, including lights, is like 12 big pieces, you know? It's like a toy, you know? It's lots of little bits, lots of big bits instead of lots of little bits, you know? Each one of the cables is almost 30 meters at 15 feet a second. The ability to make it do simple and basically stupid stuff is really easy, right? The first week we got it done and we started making looks, we were so happy, and then we realized that was so primitive, so we had to immediately went right back and started reassessing all of our looks because they were so, I mean, how many times can you make it go like that, you know? So we had to re-look at stuff and get into dynamics and stuff like that.
The control is actually pretty straightforward. The challenge is that you have to know how to model shapes that you want to create. So for example, if you just want to do some interesting, simple moves, moving a plane from one look to another look, or breaking it up into a random look, that can be done very quickly and efficiently from the console. Very quick and easy. Just the same way that all of us are used to programming lighting. It's very fast and efficient. The interesting thing is that when you want to start to get complex movements, either complex shapes, or if you actually want to rotate a plane You have to do that from the media server, and from that point, then you have to know how to animate shapes in a modeling program or After Effects or something like that. We control the Tate NanoWinch system. Basically, we have 3 ways to control it, or 2 ways, but 3 different sources. One is directly from the GrandMA console. We're driving all the elevation on the winches from ArtNet, which is DMX, just like any other moving light, as well as RGB. And then we can also control it from one of our 2 media servers. We have Catalyst and a Touch Designer system that we use for movie playback and effects, and we can also drive the winches from the servers.
Some of the cues are created by the desk, some are created through Catalyst, some are created through the Touch Designer, but it all does go through the Tate Towers system. That's the brain and the mother in case something terrible goes wrong, you know. That's the gatekeeper, so to speak, but the desk pretty much runs the show. You can make it look like a wave all night if you want, or you can make it just go crazy all you want, like people used to do with moving lights, you know. So to make it look like a kinetic sculpture that fits with the band is a lot harder than it seems, you know, to make it look cool, you know. We're using less and less of it now, as much as we are. We're getting rid of some of the, I would call like ballyhoo things, like woo-hoo-hoo. We're trying to do less and less of that to make it more cohesive to the music, as opposed to a separate thing that's, you know, like a motion, like a kinetic sculpture that's going on secondary to the music. We're trying to tie it in more to what they're doing, you know, which is hard. There's very, very few lights. A couple reasons. One, we spent all our money on the sculpture, and also there's just no space for it, you know. You can see it, that's our entire lighting rig right there, those 11 torms, we call them lollipops. Those 11 white sticks, they're 12 foot high, 4 meters high. That's almost all of it. That's our whole show in lighting department. So it's the least amount of lighting I've used in 20 years by a lot, like by 80%, you know. Yeah, there's very few toys we have, but all of them are like as cool as you can get. The packaging, again, makes this stuff go really fast. It's a 2.25 hour out in 14 trucks, and it's a 5 hour in, which is pretty amazing. There's some really cool stuff. The truss spots are bad boys now, with the PRG control, you know, the autopilot. I only use side spots and no front anyway, but those 8, 4 aside, are our entire spot system, and those are operated remotely. I'll give you a little show of how that works. On the way. Really cool OLED video now too. There's no touring frame at all in it. It's the most translucent product I've ever seen. You can see it in line here. It's almost paper thin. It's 9 mil, and it's so translucent. Most of our lighting, as you can see there, is behind it, and it still throws through amazing. No touring frames, no metal. It's plastic. It's magnetically clipped together. It's the future. It's definitely the future. Each panel is maybe 1.5 meter by 2 meter high clip is magnetized to its mate. So there's no real hardware, there's no frames, there's nothing. We saved like 80% weight on our last system. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's better, it's translucent. It's fucking awesome. Amazingly high quality video. We're super happy with that. None of that stuff's mine. Support. I don't know where the spots are. Let me find them. The follow spot operators, we usually find a little place for them. Where's the spots? Oh, here we are. My friend Ryan takes care of these spots.
Hello.
As you can see how simple it is. I'm sure all you people are familiar with what they are, but it's so awesome to not have a person in the rig. The bad boys are super bright enough, 230-ish foot candles from 35, 40 feet. Each of the bad boys has that camera in it, and it's nothing more than the operator just doing the same business, but he doesn't have to be up there. We don't have to land to get the operators up, which is a bummer. The operators don't kick cables out as they do every time on the way. Instead of having like 4 or 5 shows work without a hitch, now we have 20 shows work without a hitch. Yeah. They're the super cool thing. They're ridiculously expensive, but they're well worth it. And they're so simple now that we have each side, each band member gets to a side, so there's no spot meetings or anything. There's a picture of the guy. There he is. You're on this dude. You're on Flea. Keep him in there. It's that easy. You know, we take control of all the other stuff, color and iris, strobing and all that business. All these guys have to do is just hold the light on them. You know, it's pretty cool. Love those. We really only have 2 units. We have the Claypaky BIs, awesome. And we have flares and we have magic blades. Sorry, we have 3 things. That's our entire rig. The 11, we call them lollipops, the Torms, have the magic blades and 2 BIs on them and a couple of flares. And then what's this, 12, 18 flare BIs on the floor, and that's the whole show. There's really almost nothing here. Because we're leaning on that sculpture so much, the lighting is just pretty much for actual lighting, not effect, you know? Well, the BIs we just stumbled upon at festivals, and they were so powerful, and all LED lights have a really terrible dimmer curve. Getting into like between 2 and 10% of the 100%, they either have a color degradation, like other brands. I would never smash anyone's product, but a lot of them, they when you're coming down to like 5% to 0, they turn green or brown, like, and they just kind of crap out. And also the dimmer curve on them is, on most lights, even ones that are brighter than this, our dimmer curve is just terrible. You get down to 8 to 5, 7%, and they just turn off. You know, they're not smooth, you know. These have a much better dimmer curve. It's not perfect, but it's best that I've seen. And the color through that curve when you're taking them on and off is better than I've seen. And it's a big old source, you know, it's a big old tube, which is really cool. So the BIs are like our meat and potatoes. The magic blades we used, because we wanted to have a more architectural shape, because they have the ability to go 90 in a linear fashion like that, they can make lines like a whole row if you have them close enough like they are, that they can, it's more of an architectural look as opposed to a whole bunch of lights just popping on and off. We're trying to make, again, shapes and things, not just popping lights. You know, I probably say that too much, but I'm really into that right now. And then the flares are there just for firepower. They're just tough as shit. You know, they're there just to smash. You know? Some side light. I always use sides. Never with men. Without like dancers, I never use front light ever. I've used it before when I had to for like dancers and other scenery and stuff like that, but front lighting completely takes away your subject, you know? Side lighting molds the subject and takes it away from the background, but front lighting pushes it back into the background. I'm not sure why anyone was ever taught to do that, or why, I'm not sure. If you look at in your art classes when they told you to draw a cone or an apple or something in a, you know, and you shade it stuff, they show you this different lighting, you know, to show on shading. They never show you it from the front. because it doesn't have any form to it. You know, it would just be flat and into the background, you know? So this draws the subjects away from the back and makes them, hate to use the word pop, but it does, you know? I've learned that trick 100 years ago on Jane's Addiction, and I never quit doing that. Once I learned that, it's like I'm not gonna go away. It's cool, I like it a lot. And having those bad boys on the console for follow spots, they're so smooth, so I can do just subtle little things when someone comes in and out of something, or when two people come and spontaneously play together, they can come out of nowhere and they just appear out of nowhere, not this big circle behind them, you know, like an old rock show you see when you're a kid. They just, the form, the person just appears in the scene, and then with the handle you can make it so smooth without having to call an operator like, go 3, like bonk, you know. That's just, I didn't think it was cool when I was 10, you know, seeing Iron Maiden or something, you know. Big Iron Maiden fan. Yeah, spotlights, must have them on your desk. Must have them from the sides. 100 years ago, I learned that once you get into these distances, this is a big room, you know? People pay money to see the pop star. It took me a long time to beat that into my head. People want to see their face. They want to see their expression, you know? The more older I get, the more face I show, the more I want the people in the back to get their money's worth, you know what I mean? So we have a lot more image IMAG, even though it's a lot artified and Warholed and colored in this show, but I'm putting more and more video in. The older I get, the more I learn to what people really want, you know? They don't want to see flickering lights and some little ant of a band guy, you know, that 200 feet away. They want to see them, you know? Again, we alter our video massively, so it's always like duo-toned or artified in some way, because these aren't divas, these are men, you know? So we get away with it having really colored video, but there's a whole lot of camera in the show. I had tons of help from our manager, Peter Mensch, and my production manager, Narcy. I couldn't have just gone out there as a designer and said, hey, we want this multi-million-dollar thing that no one's ever tried. You know, like, trust me, you know what I mean? I'll make this work even though they haven't even built it yet. I just didn't, I was glad to have the massive support from our manager. You know, I've never had to do that before or even thought of it, but he really helped. They dove in and helped get this thing created, you know. Creative financial stuff, you know, is a lot of money, you know. And the production manager just tried to find ways to make it so we actually could do it. Him and I spent a lot of time making sure this could be packaged, you know, because we're adding some more. It'll get up to what, 1,200 hoists, you know. There's almost 1,000 now. Man, if you didn't have that in an amazing package, you know, you could really create something that could be, you know, what if it took 20 hours to load out, you know? Or it broke, you know, and the next show didn't work, you know? So there's a lot of fear there with something that was undone before, you know? We've been using Grandma's now for a decade, at least, I would think. Maybe, oh shoot, way more than that. I can't even think how long we've been using them. Ever since the Hug 2 died, we jumped over to Grandma when they first came out. And like I said, I had some programmers that I loved that said this is the way to go, and I just said, okay, you know, just you do what your smart people tell you to do, you know, and of course it's the strongest, meanest machine out there, you know. I don't know of another way for it to handle the grid movement and stuff too, you know. I don't know, we would never try to go to another platform. It would just be, we drank the Kool-Aid, you know. Because of the grid and stuff like that, and almost for safety, most of the songs besides like enhancers and deformers we have on them, they are cue-listed songs, you know, cue-listed macros, you know, but each one of them can be, we're not just going, you know, where each one, even though it's in a set parameters, there's deformers in each particular part of the show that would make it so we have a live, so there's touch, you know, it's not just next. Never attach it to the band, never, no time code, ever. The band would never do that. We want it to be we want it to be human, you know. So there's always something to wrangle each cue, something to deform the looks, you know what I mean? Even though we're in a set cue stack, you know. So we pretty much have a bunch of macros. Each one is a stack, and each, which is cool, is each stack has its own series of color and shape deformers. And also, of course, follow spots are on the desk, which is mandatory. All right, there is no set list. I hope they read this. Since there's no set list and they have so many records, we had to make I think we now have 42 songs. Others things I do, you get a set list, you build the show, you build the dynamics of the show. You know, you start big and you kind of make this wonderful thing like a play, you know, that has a big finale at the end. We can't do that because the set list tonight, who knows, it comes 20 minutes for the show, and so it's very difficult to have something, especially with all this grid movement, to create a dynamic flowing show. You know, they perceive it more like they're just a bar band playing giant venues, you know. They don't give a damn about theater. They don't care. They don't want to hit a mark. They don't care about flow. They just play what they want to, and they have so many songs. I think 43 now songs we have in this list. So it is what it is. How do you have this big dynamic moving thing with all these moving cool toys, and the first song might be something so out there, you know? You don't have the luxury of a set list. I'm glad for that, because it's spontaneous and fun. You know, it would be bummer to do a 2-year tour and play the same damn set list every night. I'd probably, like, you know,